Hey guys, how are you today? This is Mike again with Success Media Solutions, and today I have a treat for you. I have attorney Randi Karpinia, who is an attorney for entrepreneurs and small businesses, and she is going to take us through what she does for small businesses. Randi, how are you?
Hi, and thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, Randi, tell us a little bit about your background and your practice and how you help small businesses.
Yeah, so I have a lifetime career in corporate America and really have been looking for what could I do next and how I could take all of that information, all that knowledge, and help others. And through my recent years, before I started Sagacity Legal, I've been working with a lot of small businesses that big corporate that I worked for had acquired, and I realized that there was a real need for entrepreneurs and small businesses to understand all the legals in and outs. They're so busy working on their business and making money that they're putting themselves at risk. So I made the decision to start this firm and really help that group.
Awesome. That's awesome. And we're happy to have you. There's a lot of things within your ebook, which, by the way, guys, if you're, depending on where you're looking at this, if it's on YouTube, I'm going to put the link to Randi's ebook so you guys can get a free copy of that and reach out to her. Okay. So Randi, let's jump right in to, some of the topics that's in your ebook, right? So number one in the ebook is protect yourself.
Yeah, so people start a business and they don't think about the fact that their own personal assets, personal well-being could be at risk. A lot of people just start, especially on the internet, they open up a website, they start selling their services, they go on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it might be, and they're self-employed, they're a solopreneur. And what that does is if they don't take the time to really think about business legal structure and registering their business, they're putting themselves not only at risk of paying more taxes, but at potential liability.
Right.
So it's so very important when you start a business to do it properly by deciding on a business formation, an entity, and registering and licensing yourself that way rather than just being personally the business.
Right. And when you talk about the registering the business and the entity that you use to form your business, you're talking about an LLC versus a regular corporation, et cetera, right? Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. And I could go on for an hour just talking about the different ones, but there's solo, self-employed, there's LLCs, there's partnerships, corporations, S corporations. Those are some of the main ones. And each one has pros and cons, and each one is a very personal decision depending on your business.
So number two, Randi, is protect your name, right? Talk to us a little bit about that, because it's funny, I was looking up on Sunbiz, right? And there's actually other businesses out there that have very similar names to mine. And you're saying that I should be mindful of that, right? Like that's something that I should pay attention to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what happens when you're starting a business is a very emotional decision, right? You pick a name that you think your clients will find you with,
right,
or somehow just means something to you,
right,
and people usually stop there,
right.
And yes, you can register your business, usually it's state, unless someone has the exact same business name,
right.
But the problem is then you're putting yourself at risk. The biggest risk is if somebody else out there is doing something not even the same but similar to you,
right,
and has registered or is using,
right, that could be name, detrimental.
They can sue you.
Right. Yeah, and it could be detrimental to your reputation as well.
Absolutely. absolutely. Well, you don't want, number one, you don't want a lawsuit on your reputation,
Right.
even if you win it.
Right.
And number two, you don't want your clients, like you said, from a marketing or business standpoint, going somewhere else, thinking they're on your website, but they're
Right.
really talking to some other,
Right.
Michael.
Right.
So, I've found that people don't really take the time to do the searches to really be sure that the name's available. And then after it's available, so say you do that, say you do some Googling, you look on some of the social media, you might even be smart enough or be able, savvy enough to figure out how to look at Florida trademarks or federal trademarks. And you're like, okay, I'm cool. And you think you're done, but what you haven't done is you haven't protected that name then. So at the moment, it might be available.
Right.
But if you don't register it, or if you don't at least put people on notice. So for example, Sagacity Legal, my trademark and all my logos they are registered in the state of Florida. But the federal registration is just taking time. It's applied for.
Right.
And so if you look at any of my logos, you'll see the service mark, SM. So I basically have told everybody, hey, don't touch that mark. It's mine.
Right. Back off, right? So tell me, right. So the federal trademark is different from the registration. Tell us a little bit about that. So what's the difference there?
Yeah, so there's state trademark, there's state registration and federal registration.
Right.
If you're only working within a state, if you're very focused, or if you just want to get that protection quicker and less expensive, then you go with the state. For me, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do the easy one, get the registration, then I can tell those federal guys, hey, Florida already said it's good.
Right.
So
and that helps in expediting it, right?
I didn't have to expedite anything. With the state of Florida, I got all of my registrations within, it must have been 2 months. And it's very inexpensive. It's like $80+ each. It's not a lot of money.
Right.
The federal is, depending how you do it, like $225. So it's also not that expensive.
Right.
But the federal, even when you apply, the first thing it says is an examiner will be assigned within 3 months.
Wow.
So you're already on a waiting period.
Right.
So, but if you're going to sue, you need the federal registration.
Right. And that protects you nationwide, or does it expand globally?
Yes. No, there is no such thing as an international.
There is no international. Right. See, I'm glad. That's why we have you on this call, right? So you can answer these questions, because if someone, for example, is in Canada or another country or wherever else, you're not necessarily protected that way, but you are protected nationally.
Yeah, and then once you have the U.S., you could always go to other countries. A lot of especially bigger companies, they have trademark strategies.
Right.
They say, okay, I'm working, and these are where my clients are, or these are where my factories are. I'm going to get trademarks in those countries.
Right. Wow. Powerful information. Very valuable information. All right. So let's go to number 3, Randi, and talk to us about, and this one applies to me particularly, right?
I know it does.
You knew I was going to get excited about this one, right? So talk to me about protecting your content, right? And what are some of the things that you need to do as a content creator, as I am, right, to protect your content?
So content is what you got, right? For you, it's your videos, it's your marketing that you do. And the problem is with the internet, it is so easy now for other people to copy it.
Right.
You know, I wrote a blog post on this, and I talked about when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. And when I did class reports, or when I was writing something, I was going to the library, and I was, handwriting or whatever. So maybe Xeroxing. So now today, that's not the case.
Right.
This video that we're making right now, you're going to post it, and it's fairly easy for someone to copy it, take a piece of it, misuse it, or if this was some other kind of creation, say that it was their own. Right. And the only so you want to protect what you create, because that's what you own. And the second piece is you want to protect yourself when you're using other people's creations. And the best example of that one, before I talk about how to do it, is how many people have I seen go on the internet and say, oh, I want to put flowers on my website. And they go on the image and they find an image of a flower and they put it on their website. And guess what? A few months later, the owner who has that copyright or has that notice.
Right. They get that dreaded cease and desist letter. Right.
Cease and desist. Right. So there's two parts to it. And so one of the nice things about protecting your creations is there's a lot you can do yourself. Just like I talked about with your brand name, putting the service mark or the trademark to let people know it's yours. When you create something, you own it. So copyright law is different than some other laws in that you immediately have ownership, but nobody knows it.
Right. So what am I? So let me ask you something really quickly, because one of the things that an old professor of mine used to say is, put it in, like if you wrote a song, for example, put it in an envelope and mail it to yourself. That'll at least give you some temporary protection. He wasn't suggesting that should replace trademarking or copywriting, but that at least gave a date stamp. What's your opinion on that?
So that professor's old school, and what you're doing there is you're publishing, and that's no longer necessary. And if you think about, for example, we'll pick on your videos, your LinkedIn content, you've published it. Right. So you don't need to do that. But what you do need to do is notice people. Say, it's mine, don't trespass. And the way you do that is with a copyright notice.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Right.
So you should put copyright notices on anything you create to let them know. So for example,
in the metadata of the videos or the songs, you can put that information in there, right? Like, and for those of you...
I would but I would even put it on if you look at my ebook, I have a whole bunch of legal fees right at the end. I would put it at the
end. Well, you're a lawyer. For us laymen.
I have to do it right. So for you, I would not only put it in the metadata, which is good, but I would actually have it at the very end. Like if it says successmedia.com or whatever you put at the end of your video, I would put it there as well.
Okay, very good. And the other thing, you were going to touch on something else with regard to that, right?
I was. So just like with trademark registration, where you can notice people, but you can't sue. If you want to sue, if somebody steals your content, you want to sue, then you do have to register it. But you can register it then. It's nice. You don't have to register it at the moment you publish.
Right. So is fair use still the same in terms of you can legally, I don't want to say appropriate, but you can legally, I guess, incorporate someone else's content or someone else's work for the purposes, I think it's for parody and for criticism, right? And is that still okay, or have those laws changed at all, or no?
No, so that's a really good question. So there's really three. There's also education purposes.
Correct, right.
So for example, if my high school daughter uses something in a school project, she's not going to get, well, she could get sued, but they're not going to win.
That's a whole nother story,
Yeah. So if you're doing a review of somebody's copyrighted work, that's fair use. And if you're doing a parody. But again, if you're going to start using other people's content, just be cautious, because even if you win, even if the law's on your side, and I'm not a litigation, legal fees for litigators. See, I'm trying to say that I'm not that expensive. But, a trial, a litigation can get very expensive, even if you win.
Right.
So the best thing to do if you're going to use somebody else's content is get their permission.
Right.
Ideally,
that way you avoid the conflict. Right.
Yeah, get their permission.
Right. And number 4 is protect your business, right? You go into, protecting your business. I'll let you expand on that.
So I'll use this example. You said, hey, Randy, why don't we get on a video together? And I said, sure. We have no agreement. If you take this video and I don't know where you post it or you do something to make me look horrible, we have nothing.
I would never do that.
I know, but that's so the point is when you start a relationship,
right,
especially a business relationship, it's what I call the honeymoon phase. Everything's great, right?
Everybody loves everybody, and no one has.
Everybody does. Everything's great, and then all of a sudden, an employee steals your confidential information, or a client doesn't pay, or a partner thinks something's your responsibility, but you think it's theirs.
Right.
So it's really important, and I've noticed this a lot with small businesses, especially service-based businesses. They have no agreements.
Right.
They don't have confidentiality statements. They don't have client agreements. And if things aren't in writing, even if the terms and conditions are in, 8-point font and nobody, and everyone gets aggravated by it, it's sort of like a prenup.
Right.
You want that sitting there almost for both parties.
Right.
And agreements that I do, I always do mutual agreements for my clients. So I'm protecting not only them, but their customers as well. You just want to make sure it's in writing. And so many people do not.
Right. Well, I do have a contract agreement. Once I have a client that we're going to do video work for, or we're going to do, any kind of marketing campaign for, we absolutely do. I learned my lesson the hard way on that one. So I absolutely, have a client agreement for those types of jobs. So you mentioned you had a number 5.
The surprise.
The surprise. We're getting bonuses. Hey, we'll take it.
Yeah.
What do you have for us?
This is not in the ebook, but after I published the ebook and formatted it, I realized there's one more, and it's protecting your online presence and especially your website. It's easy. I see it all the time. Even my clients who do have, great legal structures in place, and then they come to me and I look at their website, and things will be missing, like privacy and terms and condition and disclaimers and copyright notices and trademark notices. And it's very important. What you may not realize is that your website, which is the forefront of your business in in many cases today, is liable for the same laws that any part of your business is, and it's more visible. So it's really, really important to get a website legal review and to make sure that you're well protected on your website. Right,
because that's a representation of you and your entire business. So you want to make sure that it's accurate and it's legally sound.
Exactly.
Randi, you have given us a wealth of information here. Is there anything else that you have for us? Or, we're probably going to need to absorb that for a little bit to go over everything. How can my audience and your audience get a hold of you if they need to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn and Facebook as your social media people, and Twitter, but probably the best way to get more information and to find me is on my website, which is sagacitylegal.com, SAGACITYLEGAL.com. There's a contact form there. I've got a blog. It's very boring. It's called The Legal Blog. And I'm posting tips and information in a very comfortable to read manner, my own experiences. So if you're not ready to hire me, at least, get some new information, and I'm here to help as well. So thanks for this.
I thank you, because I thought about going to law school, but I instead ended up going to business school. A lot of my friends say, you know what, you should have gone to law school. I was like, I'll let people like Randi that take care of us with that stuff. So
I'll help you out.
You'll help us out. I'm sure we're in good hands. Randi, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you about this. Folks, don't hesitate to give her a call. Reach out to her. She is very knowledgeable in her industry in helping small business owners. And I'm Michael Watkins. Thank you, and have a good day.